Welcome to itsdamtru podcast, where we talk about professional wrestling. I'm here with always Victor Martinez. Victor, how you doing?
Doing good.
So today I want to discuss. We're approaching our 30s. I'm 26. You're 27. We've been wrestling fans, I want to say easily, for a little over 2 decades now. We've seen the highs, we've seen the lows, we've seen the okays of professional wrestling. But in your opinion, I want to know, out of all those years, what is your favorite year that you were a fan? The number one year for you that you can go back, relive over and over again. You're like, damn, that was my favorite year as a wrestling fan.
Whew. It took me a little minute to think about it. I thought about 97. I thought about 97, 98, 99. The entire Attitude Era was awesome. I like 2005. I'm even a fan of just most of the late Cena era. Like recently, I've been a fan of it. But for me, the one year that continues to pop in my head, because I always find myself going back and watching the most pay-per-views in this year, is 2000. I don't think anything can measure up to the year 2000.
That's a good choice. 2000 had a lot of moments. Definitely, you're approaching. That was very late Attitude Era, and it just had you still had the Monday Night Wars going. I want to say that was like you said earlier. Jericho was in. He just recently debuted. Kurt Angle just recently debuted. Everybody.
That was the rise.
Yeah, everybody at the Attitude Era was at their peak. Really, that was the peak of performing.
Yeah, and you also think, the reason I have to go 2000, man, is like you said, we've got the rise of Jericho, the rise of Angle. We've got new talent coming in, making the Attitude Era even better. This is when the Attitude Era started kind of dying out. We're going into, the invasion kind of thing. But one thing people tend to forget, Royal Rumble, you had Triple H versus Cactus Jack, no holds barred, anything goes match. Fucking awesome match. The Rock won the Rumble. The controversy with the Big Show. The WrestleMania match was great. And a lot of people want to think about the year and they want to focus on the WrestleMania moment. But I look beyond that. After WrestleMania, we've still got 7-8 months left in the year. The year 2000 debuted the TLC match at SummerSlam. SummerSlam 2000. Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian. The first ever tables, ladders, and chairs. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh my! Dude, that sticks in your head. And that match, god damn, innovative. It was great. Talk about putting on a performance. I think that was one of the few times where a tag team match stole the show and just made you be like, yo, I want to see that now again, right now, restart it, because that was awesome.
You had a stacked card. You had storylines. You had it all in the year 2000. I cannot disagree with you on that. It's a great year, and I love arguing with you. But 2000 was a great year, and
yeah,
you had your heels, you had your baby faces, you still had your raunchy TV. The Divas division or Women's Champion division was always trash at that time, of course, but it was mostly used for Playboy purposes. That doesn't hurt. I was 10-year-old kid at the time. She could show me Sable Cities.
I like boobs. Do you like boobs?
Absolutely.
I think boobs are phenomenal. And Trish Stratus, oh god, I wish he was in Playboy.
It was you still had Austin, you still had Rock, but you had that upper mid card, and lower card that was just entertaining throughout the whole thing. Even Val Venus was entertaining. You had DX still. I think DX was still. Triple H was in his more of it becoming the game, but he still did his old DX thing every now and then. And it was just, man, I look back at it now, and it really was a good year. I was actually watching that Royal Rumble you were talking about a couple weeks ago. Fantastic Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and like you said, Triple H was in that spot where he was becoming, he was the game, but he wasn't the cerebral assassin yet.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't part of the topic, good, but god damn, Cerebral Assassin is such a cool
It
nickname.
really is. God damn it, it is.
But that's besides the point. But yeah, like you had like all these guys developing, and oh my god, like the legends. You had the Kurtz, the Jerichos, the Triple H's. You know,
Yeah.
the Rock got that Royal Rumble. He
Yeah.
got the push he needed. Like
You had
of course Stone
You had
Cold.
Eddie
Like
Guerrero transitioning from just being a part of the Radicals to Latino Heat. Yeah.
yeah, like oh my god, dude. Like oh, such a good year, and I can't again. I, me personally, match of the year for 2000. I go back to it, that TLC match.
You'd
Like,
put that TLC match over Cactus Jack and Triple H. Oh
yes,
wow.
dude. Okay, so Cactus Jack Triple H. The reason I have to put that match over Cactus Jack Triple H, and it kind of sucks that I have to, but it's because we did it way back. Who's the WWE's best loser? It's Mick Foley. He doesn't win. You knew Triple H was gonna take it. Like, what would you rather watch at Mania? Austin and The Rock and fucking Triple H, or would you rather watch The Rock and fucking Cactus Jack? Like, you know what it's gonna be. But then you have this TLC match. You got the Hardy Boys who specialize with ladders. You got the Dudley Boys at Devon get the tables, and then you've got Edge and Christian with the chairs. You didn't know who was gonna win.
It was something.
I didn't.
It was a breath of fresh air. It was something really
It
fresh.
was brand new. And I didn't know till years later that that match was Edge's idea. Edge came up with that.
You still had the spark of these guys competing against WCW. You had the spark of everybody on that roster wanting to outperform everybody else. And even though you didn't see that as kids, and I guarantee fans didn't see that back then because they watched it mostly either you're a fan or you watched it because of pop culture. And I don't think people realized how hard these guys were trying to perform to be the best. Everybody was trying to be the best and play their part, and it succeeded.
And I feel like, oh my god, like these matches that were happening at the time, they were just so good. Like I know a long time ago, I think 2008, 2009, me and you were talking before we decided to, take it to a podcast, and we said, remember the days when a tag team match could be a main event?
Yeah.
That would never happen now. You won't ever have a tag team match be a main event of a pay-per-view. You don't have the backing behind it. But back then, these guys, man, like the Dudley Boys, and God, I think the Dudley Boys are kind of underrated because I feel like they fell below Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys because they were like the high flyers, and Edge and Christian were funny, but the Dudley Boys were just like the hardcore guys.
Yeah.
And just the year 2000, man, like it was just so good. Like so many reasons to love it. Like even being a first time watcher, if you would have jumped in at the Royal Rumble, seeing the promos for these matches, seeing the mic work of Triple H and Cactus Jack, like I believe that was like where Triple H was supposed to be like afraid of Cactus Jack, which led to the reason of him handcuffing Cactus Jack during the match, and the Rock interfering, hitting him in the head with the chair. Like you had that whole, every match had a story, whether it was Monday Night Raw, a pay-per-view, like a house show. Every match had the story, and I can't look past 2000 as the greatest year in wrestling.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with your answer. I have a different answer. It's pretty close. And it was a toss of my bias side, and it's probably gonna throw you off guard. My bias side was gonna be either 95 or 96.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Oh, I did not. Yeah. Wasn't expecting.
I'm a little kid. I love Shawn Michaels. I love the Click. They're the main event of every Monday Night Raw and every pay-per-view. How can I not love that? But overall, was the whole card good? Absolutely not. So what I'm gonna say, and it was a toss-up between 2001 and 2002, but I had to go with 2002, and it's for a lot of reasons. And I'll start from the bottom. 2002 was the transition of going to that next era. The Attitude Era is over. It's time for a change. WCW is now dead. WCW died in 2001. All WCW superstars are starting to go to WWE in 2001, but not the big stars. The big stars are still under contract. They're getting paid while sitting at home. So, 2002, you had the debut of Batista. You had the debut of John Cena. You had the debut of Randy Orton. And you had the first ever brand split. I mean, not brand split. You had the first ever draft for SmackDown and Raw.
Yeah. Which, of course, The Rock was the number one pick because goddamn, he's awesome.
But anyways, and it got to the point, I want to say the main event for SummerSlam of that year, because I know that the draft didn't happen until after SummerSlam when Brock Lesnar beat The Rock for the Undisputed Championship. And when they did the brand split, Brock Lesnar got drafted to SmackDown, and they needed a title for Raw, which they brought the World Heavyweight Championship to Raw, and Triple H was the World Heavyweight Champion. So now you have two stacked rosters. Eric Bischoff is the manager, and Vince McMahon are the two guys for Raw, and Paul Heyman is the manager for SmackDown. And at that time, you can watch the Paul Heyman documentary. SmackDown was beating Raw in the ratings. So both shows, you can only imagine. Raw's awesome. And if SmackDown is beating Raw, that means both shows are now must-see television. And not only that, you had, and here we go, in my being biased, but it was still awesome. 2002 was very special to me because that was the year that the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels came back and became an act. He had that same SummerSlam, had that his first match back against Triple H, which arguably stole the show. And it was very, very emotional for me as a kid because I remember being so devastated when he retired. And when he came back, it was just awesome. And then also that, being biased again, guess who comes back in 2002? You had the motherfucking NWO, Hollywood Hogan's coming. Kevin Nash is coming. Drunk ass Scott Hall is coming. All my favorites are coming back to WWF. Everybody is now in this roster. You had Rob Van Dam. You had Rey Mysterio debut that year. You have Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio fighting. You have Edge fighting. You have Dean Malenko. You have Hulk Hogan, you have Scott Hall, you have Kevin Nash, you have Shawn, you have Triple H, you have Brock Lesnar, you have The Rock. You know, I know Austin was retired, and then that WrestleMania 22, WrestleMania 18 with goddamn The Rock and Hollywood Hogan. You had, not WrestleMania 22, I'm sorry, WrestleMania 18 was in the year 2002, that's what I meant to say. And the main event, Chris Jericho versus Triple H. Chris Jericho was in the main event, and that's my second favorite. Chris Jericho was in the main event of WrestleMania. 2002 has a special place in my heart where I can look back, and same thing for 2000, but now you have the top talent, or even the building blocks talent of WCW. You have Booker T, you have Diamond Dallas Page. All of them came. Undertaker is still, I want to say, believe he's in his American Brothers of Destruction stage, where he's American Badass with Kane. You had Taz, you had Rhino, you had the Hardy Boys still. It was just an unbelievable year of wrestling to me as a fan, where I can watch Raw and SmackDown every week like if it's watching a pay-per-view. So I gotta solidify my answer and say 2002 as a fan of loving this company. And I can easily say, and people are probably shocked we didn't say 97, 98, 99, which when the company was at its hottest, pop culture television, where you can watch either WCW, ECW, and WWE, and they were all killing it. But I wasn't old enough to appreciate all brands and all companies, but I was old enough to appreciate 2002, where I loved every single Raw and SmackDown and every single pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see why 2002 is up there. It's definitely one of the better years. The only thing I have with it is it's you know how like so you're on a team, right? Like say like the Detroit Lions and you go 0 and 16. You come into the next season and no matter what you do, it's better than the last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that was the situation with 2002 because 2001 was the botched invasion. Like the invasion could have been so much cooler and it was so much potential, but I feel like they kind of botched it, especially coming off of like we said a strong 2000. And like I'm not trying to take away from 2002 cuz goddamn was it awesome. Like I remember watching Rock and Hogan. Like the match wasn't even that good, but goddamn the crowd just made it so good. And it also took away from the main event of Jericho and Triple H because the crowd was exhausted from being so invested in that match. But then like you look at like the SummerSlam, like you said, where Brock went over The Rock to become champ, and it was a good year. But I feel like it's handicapped by no matter what you did, it was gonna be better than last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that was just one angle. Even though it was supposed to be the biggest angle, you had so many opportunities. You had DX versus NWO. You had
Yeah.
or maybe Hogan and Austin. There's a lot of egos and a lot of. I mean, if you still had WCW pay, which is probably 1.5, maybe 2.5 million dollars a year, and you're still getting paid to sit at your ass and not get beat up every night. Oh yeah, I would have been Kevin Nash, Goldberg, all those guys too. Sit my ass home. I travel all the time, you know. But that's the beauty of this podcast. That's the beauty of opinion. Everybody has their own opinion, and I want you to comment below. Let us know what's your favorite year of wrestling. Was it the 80s? Somewhere in the 80s, 90s, 2000, New Millennium? Let us know. Comment below, and we'll see you next time on It's Damn True Podcast.
I hate apples.